Was there an era of giants? Not an era of savage killer cannibal giants, but an era of civilized giants that lived in a civilized way in a modern world like we do. I believe there was, and the evidence clearly shows it. Our history has a lot of historical giant oddities in it. One of them is the giant historical ships that are out of place for the times. One of them is the Great Eastern, which was launched in 1858. This massive ship was 4 to 5 times larger than any of the ships of that time. It was the largest paddle wheel ship ever built and could carry 4,000 passengers, and was the first double-hulled ship. It was 695 feet long. It was reported that its deck was as wide as a city street, and that no port or harbor could accommodate its great size. The Great Eastern would take passengers from Great Britain to the United States and back. Its first voyage it carried only 35 passengers, and its second voyage 100 passengers. The Great Eastern never came close to filling to capacity with passengers on this huge ship. It was a commercial flop. It ended up laying cable on the ocean floor before being scrapped in 1890. It would seem the investors of the ship would have had a better idea of the amount of passengers that would be traveling from Great Britain to the United States before building such a huge passenger ship. Another giant historical ship was the Great Wyoming schooner. Like the Great Eastern, it was by far bigger than any of the other ships of that time. The giant schooner was launched in 1909 and was the largest wooden ship that was ever built that is recorded. It had 22 sails and was 450 feet long, which is only 60 feet less than the biblical wooden ship Noah's Ark, which was 510 feet long. The Wyoming schooner sank in 1924, killing 13 crew members. Another giant oddity of our past is the giant shotguns, the 1 and 2 gauges, which are known as punt guns, which most of these giant antique shotguns are about 12 feet long and weigh about 200 pounds, which is way too large for us to carry around and shoot. Also, the recoil of these giant guns are tremendous. The official narrative of this gun, which I have a hard time believing, is that these guns were built for market hunters in the 1800s to kill ducks and geese. These giant guns were supposedly put on small skiffs, and the hunter paddled the skiff toward the flock of ducks or geese that are floating on the water, and with one shot he kills the flock. I find that narrative to be very questionable because there's YouTube videos showing people with these giant antique guns demonstrating how they were supposedly used. The demonstrators in these videos are having a very hard time paddling their skiff and lining up on the balloons that represent a flock of ducks and shooting the balloons. The giant punt guns look like a very poor design for how they were supposedly used. I believe it is much more likely these giant shotguns were made for giants. Another oddity is the giant antique musical instrument. The first one is the giant antique tuba named Big Carl, which weighs 100 pounds and stands almost 8 feet tall. The second giant antique musical instrument is the 1840 saxophone, which stands 6'4". The third giant antique musical instrument is the contrabass flute, which is 15 feet long. But the oddest of them all is the octobass, which was supposedly built in 1850. This giant musical instrument stands 11'5", and for the person that plays this massive instrument has to stand on a raised platform. What is very odd about this instrument is it plays a tone that is so low that human ears can barely hear it. And the lowest tone this instrument plays is too low for human ears to even hear, which I find to be very odd and suspicious that we, meaning our size people, would build a musical instrument that plays a tone that we cannot even hear. Was this instrument built for us, or was it built for giants that have bigger eardrums that could hear the tone this instrument plays? I think it is much more likely this massive musical instrument was built for giants. As a side note, it is reported that many giant antique musical instruments were destroyed in the early 1940s by the United States government for scrap metal to support the war effort of World War II. Then there is this antique penny farthing bicycles that come in many different sizes. The largest one, which is so huge that a person needs to climb up on the pegs that are on the back of the bicycle to even sit on the seat of the bike. A person riding this giant bicycle is so high off the ground that if he wrecks, he is in danger of serious injury or perhaps even death. A dangerous bicycle for our size of people to ride. So it is very questionable in the past that this bike was built for us to use. Then there is this giant oddity in the past, and that is the giant Studebaker automobile that was supposedly built in 1931. And of course, we are told that it was only built as a prop. Another giant Studebaker automobile shows up on display in the 1934 Chicago World Fair. This Studebaker has a top on it. Was these giant Studebaker automobiles just props, or were they giant car relics of the past from the era of giants? We will never know, but I find it very odd and suspicious. But the strongest evidence for the era of the giants is this: the giant doors that are on ancient buildings all over the world, which are way too large for us to open and close. Some of these giant doors are permanently left open, never to be closed again, while other giant doors are closed with smaller doors cut through the giant door so we can go in and out of the building. So the evidence strongly shows that there was an era that giants lived, and the evidence even indicates that it is very probable that a lot of our technology that we have today was invented first by the giants and later copied by us. Of course, the era of giants is not recorded in history and will remain hidden, but the evidence shows it existed, and our real history is a lot different than the history we have been taught. Anyway, thanks for watching my video, and have a good day.